What's up guys, Eric Vasquez here from teachmetodesign.com, and in this week's video I'll be showing you how to create a cool flyer that uses text effects, custom brushes, and masking techniques in Adobe Photoshop. So to start things off, we're going to fire up Photoshop and create a new document that is 5 inches by 7 inches tall, and let's just leave the resolution set to 300 for now, and you can go ahead and change the background contents from white to black and then hit create. Now what we want to do from here is I'm actually going to open up just a couple of stock photos that I grabbed just of like palm trees of this kind of Miami beach scene. One of them is a hotel and the other one is just this body of water here. So let's go ahead and bring those both into our document, and you can really use any kind of images you want for this effect, but I'm just going to be using these to demonstrate. I'll also make sure to put a link for these images and the other resources in the description. Alright, so we're just going to rename these layers 1 and layer 2, and I'm going to hold down the control key and choose convert to smart object for both of these images. So we're going to make both images a smart object. Select your first image and press Command or Control plus T to do a free transform. And then I'm just going to scale this down a bit so that it fits in the document. Alright, so I want to make it about the same width. Go ahead and hit return. And now let's take our second image and actually move it on top of this one, and then do the same thing. Press Command Control T, hold down Alt Option and Shift and drag in from any of the four corners until the image is the same width as your document. Okay, and then press Enter or Return to apply those changes. And now we're going to change the blending mode of this top image to lighten. Press Command T again, and then just hold down the Shift key and move this down somewhere around here, just until you get kind of a nice looking blend happening on the bottom. I'm going to hold Shift and grab both layers, and then I'm going to press Command T and slide them both up. So we're going to move it all the way up to the top of our document here, just like this. And now click on the second smart object layer and then come down here to the adjustment layer icon found at the bottom of the layers palette and choose the black and white adjustment layer. Now we're going to copy this one time by pressing Command J on the keyboard and then changing the blending mode of this second black and white adjustment layer to soft light. That's going to give us a nice contrasty looking effect like this. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is come back down to the adjustment layer icon, and this time we'll choose gradient map. Now for the gradient map, all you want to do is kind of click into this gradient strip here, and you'll be able to change these colors. So let's double click on the black first and maybe make it like a reddish orange color, and then double click on the white, and we could maybe try making this more of a orange yellow kind of saturated color like that. And let's just come back and maybe tweak this color a little bit more just to make it slightly darker red so we get a little bit more contrast out of it. And then just hit OK once again. So we now have a gradient map applied to both of our blended images and both of our black and white adjustment layers below. So at this point what I want to do is select the gradient map layer, hold down Shift, and click on the first smart object here. So I've got all these layers selected, everything but the black background, and then press Command G on the keyboard to place it into a group folder. Now I'm going to double click the name and just change this to background image, and then just go ahead and double click on the background black layer and just call it something like black BG. From here I'm going to hold down the Alt Option key and click on the layer mask icon. Now that's going to hide everything inside of our background image folder, so don't freak out if all you're seeing is the background. Now what we're going to do next is press B on the keyboard to bring up our brushes, and you can press F5 on the keyboard to bring up your brush dialog box here. Now I want to show you guys really quick how you can load these brushes up, but before I do that, let me just go ahead and reset my brushes. So I'm going to click on this hamburger icon up here in the top right, and then choose Reset Brushes, and then choose Append, and that's just going to reset everything. Come back up to this menu, and we're just going to load up the brushes. So you just click Load Brushes, and then you can navigate to your splatter brushes used for this tutorial. Now for this I'm using the Chaos brushes, which I've linked to in the bottom. This is a great set of brushes which I did not create, so I can't take credit for it, but the link for them is in the description. So what I'm going to do is just select one of these brushes here, come over to my settings and make the size a little bit smaller, just so that it fits in the canvas area. And then with a solid white fill selected, just go ahead and click. And you'll notice that when you do that, you're actually revealing some of the background image from the folder. So click a few more times and then maybe try out a few more of these brushes. You can rotate them, experiment with the size and placement. But basically what we've done here is created an inverted mask. So normally we would paint with black to hide certain areas, but in this case we're doing the opposite and we're actually painting with white over the areas that we want to reveal. Okay, and by using these brushes we're getting some nice looking texture happening with our image here. Okay, so again, just experiment with some of these different brushes. It's a really cool brush set that you guys can use, and it actually creates a pretty cool looking effect. So I just want to do this and kind of decide where I want to reveal the image inside of the folder. And if at any point you guys aren't happy with the way that it's looking, you can always switch your color back to black and then paint in with that black color in order to hide certain parts of your image. So it's a completely non-destructive way to work, which is smart because it prevents us from ruining the original image. And another cool thing that you might want to try out is maybe experimenting with the opacity a little bit. So instead of using full 100% here, I could just lower it to 30 or 40 just by pressing the number 3 or 4 on the keyboard and then clicking a few more times to kind of bring in some more opaque, somewhat transparent parts of the image. So there's a lot that you can do with this technique and with these brushes here. Alright, so maybe I'll just rotate this a little bit more just to get some more variation out of it. Make it a little bit bigger. And there you go. This is the basic idea for kind of creating this reveal effect. It looks pretty cool, and I think once you get some interesting shapes in here, that it can be it can turn out pretty nice. So again, you guys can use any images you want for this, but it'll reveal the colors that you're using in your gradient map. So if at any point you want to come back in here, all you have to do is double click on the gradient map and you can change up these colors. Alright, so you can make this any color that you want, really. Okay, get something that feels pretty cool, pretty fun. Maybe we'll change the yellow to like a more orangish kind of pale color. But I think ideally, you want to have something that's got a good amount of contrast in it. Right, so feel free to experiment with that until you guys get something you're happy with, along with these brushes as well. I'm just going to take a few more minutes here to kind of paint in here and see what I can come up with. Right, just going to reduce the size. It's a little too big. Okay, and then maybe rotate it slightly. Set it back to 100% opacity and just bring it back in here. And again, I can always use solid black if I want to hide that area, but I'm actually going to rotate it first so I have this edge instead. Alright, so it's a pretty nice effect, and now if you want to, you can actually collapse that folder and move the whole thing up a bit because we've got quite a bit of sky in the top of the image. Okay, and I can also come into this folder and I can move around both of these images by pressing Command T to do a free transform. You can maybe scale them up a little bit more so you see the image a bit larger. And you can just move it around freely inside of this mask and inside of this folder. So a lot of possibilities here for what you guys can do. Then once you're happy with it, I'm just going to collapse the folder, add a new layer, and then press T on the keyboard to get my text tool. And now I'm going to click and just type out the word Miami. And I'm going to change this to a font called Atlantic Cruise Regular. Now this is a free font from thefont.com that you guys can use and play around with, experiment with. So I'm going to use this typeface for this poster design or this flyer design. Alright, and I'm going to press Command J to duplicate this layer, then Command and a left bracket to move it below. Now I'll press Command T, hold the Shift key and just drag a copy down. Double click inside and just change the second line to Nights. Alright, now I'm going to press Command T again, hold down the Shift key and just drag in from the bottom right corner to reduce the size of this a little bit. And now I'll select both of these layers over in my Layers panel, hold down the Control key, and click on Convert to Smart Object. Now you guys will see why I'm doing this in a few minutes, but the main thing is that I want to group these together in a smart object in a non-destructive way. So press Command J one more time and then Command in the left bracket to move it below the original copy. And you should now have your main text smart object and a copy below. Okay, so we're going to turn off this top copy here so that all we've got is this one instance of our text turned on. And from there, I'm going to go ahead and open up the Actions panel, which if you guys don't see this, you can access it by coming up to Window and choosing Actions. And once you've done that, we're actually going to go ahead and choose the New Action button. So click on that, and we're just going to call this Extrude, then hit Record, and you should now see this little red button here. The first thing we want to do now that we're recording is press Command J and then Command in the left bracket to move it down, and then press V on the keyboard to get your selection tool. Tap the down arrow once and tap the right arrow once as well, and then go ahead and hit Stop. So basically you can see here, if I expand this panel, our extrude action just consists of creating a copy of a layer, moving it down, and then basically moving it, offsetting it once down and once to the right. So now that we have our second copy, all we have to do is continue to press the play button, and it's going to create multiple instances of our offset text, which will kind of look like 3D text, more of an extruded kind of appearance. I can select all of these layers, press Command G to put them in a folder, and I'm just going to double click and call this extrusion. Okay, so now what I want to do is click on the fill here and lower it all the way to 0 so that it disappears. Turn back your original copy of the layer on, and now double click on the extrusion folder. So the next thing we're going to do is check off the color overlay option and change the color maybe to like one of the shadow colors from your image or a darker orange color from the image, and then hit OK. Change the blending mode to multiply, and then let's go ahead and lower the opacity to somewhere around 60% or so. Alright, so we've now got this kind of long shadow effect. But if you look closely here, you'll see that there's actually kind of these jagged edges in between all of the copies. So we need to fix that somehow. What I'm going to do is click on the color here and make sure that I copy the same hexadecimal value, which is DC 3800. Press Command C to copy it. And also pay attention to the fact that our blending mode is set to multiply with an opacity of 70%. And then come up here to the stroke option and check that off. Change the position to outside. And let's make the size maybe somewhere around 3 or 4. Okay, and now click in the fill color, paste your hex value by pressing Command V, hit OK. And now we just want to change the blending mode of this to multiply and lower the opacity to 70 like our regular extruded text. And now that's going to smooth out some of these edges a bit more. Okay, and if you increase the size of the stroke a little bit, you'll see it will smooth those edges out even more. Okay, but you want to be careful because we don't want to get a line outside of our text or not too big. Okay, so maybe set this to around 4 or 5 and then go ahead and hit OK. And now on our main text here, let's double click that to bring up the layer styles. Check off stroke again, and this time we want to make sure that it's set to outside with a blend mode of regular, and we'll change the color to solid white and just bring the opacity all the way back up. Alright, so by doing this, we're kind of filling in some of the color that was appearing on the left side or the left edges of our text. Alright, so I'm just going to change that to 3 for the pixels and then hit OK. And we've now got our extruded smart object text inside of our mask layer here. So we've created this kind of nice title treatment here, which you can play around with the size and the placement of it however you like. And then I'm just going to press enter once I'm happy with those changes. And I'm also going to come in here and maybe just scale up my first smart object layer just to experiment with that a little bit more. And then go ahead and press enter on the keyboard once you're happy with the changes. Alright, and you can kind of see the image below. We're basically just covering up some of these cars with these lights and everything. So I'm just going to move that around a little bit more. and just experiment with the placement and the size of both of the images. Alright, so once you're happy with everything, go ahead and collapse the background image folder, and then select the extrusion and the Miami Nights Smart Object layer and press Command G, and let's just go ahead and rename this layer to TT for title treatment. Next, go ahead and create another new layer, and then just add some text down here. So right now I'm just going to type in exclusive VIP beach party, and then I'm going to just reduce the size of the text a bit. Somewhere around 16 or 17 point I think is pretty good. And then maybe go a little bit smaller with it. Actually going to space this out a little bit more. And the way that I'm going to do that is by selecting everything or double clicking inside of the text, and then holding down the Alt Option key and tapping the right arrow to add space or the left arrow to decrease the space between the letters. So once you're happy with that, let's go ahead and just create another new text layer, create a new layer, click inside here, and then for this one let's actually go ahead and type out Grand Miami Hotel, and we can press Command A to select all of the text, or again double click inside here. And let's just change this typeface to Century Gothic regular. Or you know what, let's try Century Gothic bold and just mix up the weights a little bit. And now I want this text to be even smaller, and I'm actually going to press Command T and then just move it down here. Press Command J to duplicate the text layer, then Command and the left bracket to move it below in the layers palette. I'm just going to tap it down a bit more, click inside here, and we'll use this box to put in the URL. Alright, so let's go ahead and call it Miami Nights Beach Party.com. Select all of the text, and then while it's highlighted, hold down Alt Option and tap the left arrow to tighten up the spacing between the letters. Okay, until it's about flush with the Grand Miami Hotel copy above. Alright, what we can do now is double click on this layer, check off color overlay, and then let's go ahead and change the blending mode back to normal, the opacity to 100, and you can try out some of these other colors from the image using your eyedropper tool. So maybe you want to try like a yellow or a mid-orange color, just something that's going to stand out but be a little bit different from our plain white. And then go ahead and hit OK to apply the changes. And now what we also need to put in here is our date. So we're going to add some more text. So press Command, Option, Shift, and N on the keyboard to create a new layer. Press T to get your text tool. And then let's just go ahead and type out SAT, July 15th. Alright, and make the 15th uppercase. And now I'm going to go back to my Atlantic Cruise typeface here. Okay, and scale this up by pressing Command T, and then hold down the Shift key and drag out from any of these four corners. Alright, and then move my cursor in between the 1 and the 5 here, and again hold down Alt Option and tap the left arrow to decrease the spacing. And now I can select the TH, open my character panel, and we want to choose this option here that says Superscript, and it's basically a T with a small 1 on the upper right of it. And then for this other value here, we want to change it, it's basically the baseline shift. So we're going to change that value from 0 point to -2 or maybe -1 so that the top of our TH is flush or about flush with the number 15. And now from here I can press Command T again to scale up all this text together. And then I'm going to create another new layer and press U on the keyboard. Now make sure that you have your solid rectangle shape up here selected. Alright, and then we're just going to click and drag behind the letters SAT. Now for this, I want to make sure that I'm using the same color that we've used on our URL. So if you look just above that, you'll have the Miami Nights Beach Party.com text with a small FX icon next to it. Hold down the Alt Option key and click and drag that FX icon onto the rectangle, and then move the rectangle layer down once so that it's behind the Saturday, July 15th text. Now select your rectangle, press Command T, and then hold down Control and click, and let's choose the option here that says Skew. Now all I have to do is kind of skew this text a little bit, just to put it on an angle and make it a little more interesting. And then I'm just going to tap that into place, hold down the Command key and select my Saturday, July 15th text along with the rectangle text, and then press Command G to put it into a group folder, and let's just call it Info. Alright, now I'm going to add my other text to this folder as well. So I'm just going to hold down the Command key, click on the URL in the Grand Miami Hotel text along with the exclusive VIP beach party, and then let's reorder these layers a bit. So we want the exclusive beach party to be on top, alright, because that'll just make sense. And now we also have our URL and the location. So I'm just going to move that to the bottom here, and then maybe space these out a little bit more. So something like that looks pretty good. Now I'm just going to collapse that info folder and just tweak this mask a little bit more. So I'm going to press F5 to bring up my brushes once again, and now use some of these other brushes in here to maybe erase some areas from the background image. Alright, just to create a slightly different shape here. Right, make it a little bit more kind of random looking. Okay, make this a little bit bigger. Maybe take some pieces out of it. Okay, and also experiment with the opacity a bit, just like we did earlier. Okay, so now you've got most of your text laid out here, and I just want to come to the bottom here and just erase some of this texture behind the beach party text so it's easier to read. Alright, and it would help if it actually said beach party instead of beach part. Now we're just going to nudge this text over a little bit, maybe make it a little bit smaller so that it lines up with the end of the H in our 15th text. And now I'm going to select all of that, tap it over, click on the exclusive VIP beach party text, hold down the Shift key, and now click on the URL at the bottom. And now we'll just come up top here to our Align options and choose the one that says Align Horizontal Centers. And now we just need to press Command T and slide our skewed rectangle shape over back into place. Okay, so from here I might move around the background image a little bit more, just tap it up a bit and experiment with the placement. But this is the basic idea, guys. So this is how you can kind of reveal an image using these custom brushes to create this cool flyer design. And we've also created some updatable smart object text. Let me just show you guys real quick what I mean. So if I come back to my Miami Nights text here, double click on the smart object, I can actually update the smart object here. So if I just turn off the Nights text for a second and press Command S to save this, and then I can press Command and W on the keyboard to close this tab, you'll see that it's not only updated our main text, but also our long shadow text as well. So you guys can type in anything you want here and it'll update all of those effects automatically. So once everything is in place and you guys are happy with your mask and the text and everything like that, let's just experiment a little bit more with the size and the scale of some of these elements, because right now our Miami Nights text is about the same size and balance as our date and info here. So I actually want to select these top 3 layers in the info folder, press Command T, and then hold Alt, Option, and Shift and just scale this down a little bit so that it's not quite as prominent as our title treatment. Alright, but that's the effect, guys. I just wanted to take a few minutes to show you guys how to do this. A few people had requested it on the YouTube channel, so I hope that you found this helpful, and I can't wait to see what you guys do using these techniques. So if you did like the video, please go ahead and give us a thumbs up, leave us a comment, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. And if you guys want to learn all about creating cool and unique logos and branding, be sure to check out our Brand You Design course. It's over 12 hours of professional design training that's going to teach you guys how to create a cool and unique visual identity from scratch, from start to finish, all here at teachmetodesign.com/brandyou. So head on over and check it out. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for your support, and we'll see you next time.